Longbox Review, Episode 11. Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com.
And this is Travis from Oddfellows Thoughts at oddfellowsthoughts.wordpress.com.
Excellent. So, Travis, we are back to talk about the new 52 from DC Comics, week number 2. Let's get right into it. Batman and Robin is our first comic on the list. By Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, Mick Gray. And is that it? And colorist John Calise, it looks like. Yeah, I always want to include the colorist. All right, so this is a title that I was not going to pick up. I enjoyed the Batman and Robin run from the previous DC Comics, especially when Grant Morrison was doing it. But I did enjoy it for the most part throughout its run. But I didn't think that I needed to see more of Batman and this Robin, Damian. Although I was kind of intrigued to see how Bruce Wayne would interact with his son as his partner in crime. But I decided not to pick it up. But then I heard some things about it, and you and I talked about it off mic a day or two ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, that convinced me to pick it up, so yesterday I went to the store and grabbed a copy, paid full price for it, which, man, I hate to do, but that's okay, because again, like we discussed in the last episode, where we were talking about week 1 of the new 52, I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I would be, because Peter Tomasi is not one of those writers that I'm particularly fond of. He's not bad, but he's not great. But I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think he captured both characters really well. And how I kind of thought their initial working with each other would be. Just going back in the history of, the history of Damian anyway, how he started out in the original, Batman and Robin, and being a nasty little punk that you wanted to wring his neck, and him slowly, in his own way, coming around to being, almost human. And I think to some degree we're going to see some of the same stuff in this. I mean, I noticed that when this comic was first released, there were people who were like, "Oh my God, he's such a punk. Who could read that?" or whatever. I don't have a problem with him acting the way he is, because that's his defense mechanism, right?
Yes.
I mean, especially with his dad, who he nothing but admires and thinks that Batman is such a badass, so he needs to be a badass too, and he just takes it, being a what? I don't know, how old is he supposed to be? 13?
Is he? I thought he was younger than that.
Okay, well,
I think he's
new
preteen.
Teenager or preteen, he takes it all over the top, and not that a new reader wouldn't know this, I guess, but him coming from a bunch of assassins and whatnot, where he's basically trained to kill and be a badass, he's going to have this kind of, quite frankly, really off-putting attitude.
But thinking in terms of a new person coming into this comic, everybody knows Batman, so that's not a big deal. Everybody knows Robin, but everybody knows of Robin. When I say everybody, I mean like potential new readers, people who don't read comics normally.
Right.
Robin is Dick Grayson. So you open this book up, and you discover Batman and Robin, and it's Damian, his son. They talk about it, and I have to give props to Peter Tomasi. Like I said before, I haven't been all that impressed with his work, but this I thought was done very well. In terms of introducing the characters, the situation, their relationship. We do get a lot of information that people who have read the title before know already, but it was done still in a way that I think makes sense. It's not just expository dialogue or the boxes, the word boxes in comics that you see a lot, that just throws that information at you. This was done, I think, more or less organically, and it worked very well. So I was very impressed by that. But still, it's not your typical Robin. Is it enough for Bruce to say you're my son, and him and Damian to refer to Bruce as his father, and they're now Batman and Robin? Do you think people come into that and go, what the hell's going on here?
Well,
or
they might,
matter?
but I don't know that it matters. I don't know that it matters if you're just willing to, read the story. I don't know that it matters. I think the perfect page that sets most of the stuff is right after the Russian. I think it's Russian. The Russian Batman, basically gets his ass beat. The page where it's Gotham City, the Wayne Manor, and the clock is going off, and it shows Bruce, sitting there in the dark, and he says, tonight's the night, Father, and then he's looking at, we're assuming is the family portrait of his dad, mom, and him. It's time for a change. That sets the whole comic right there. It's time for a change. We know from those two panels that this isn't just Batman and Robin. And you immediately get that. It immediately transitions into the change. You're right. I think this was perfectly written to set up, where they're at and going forward. Do I think there was enough? Yeah, I think there was enough to explain that. That obviously this is father and son. It's pretty obvious that they haven't had a large time together, and they're still getting to know each other, which is great for the new reader, because the new reader doesn't know. I mean, everybody knows Batman is Batman and Bruce Wayne is Batman, but we don't. If you're a new reader, you don't know Batman, and we certainly don't know Damian. So I thought this was perfect to give us that. And obviously, this first issue shows us where they're going to have to figure a lot more stuff out between the two of them, because it obviously doesn't quite work, right? I mean, at least not from Batman's perspective, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, and that you bring up a good point, because I'm trying to think of, have we ever seen, other than flashback stories, of course, but have we ever seen, like, Batman with Dick, them learning to be a partnership? In real time.
No, not in real time.
Yeah, and well, I guess we have seen it some with when Tim Drake was Robin, but other than that, yeah, this is the first time we've really seen that.
Right.
But although we're coming into it where Damian, has already been trained by a Batman, although I don't know if that's still in continuity or not, but he's already been trained to be a partner to some degree, because they do Damian does refer to his time with Dick,
right,
in this. So, and the whole theme of change in this, the change in attitude with Bruce Wayne and his parents, and the marking the anniversary of their death, and now he's going to change it to their wedding anniversary. I love that. This is just I'm really glad that you talked me into, or told me how much you liked it, and forced me to get this, because this was, I thought, a really good, probably the best Batman story I've read so far of the New 52.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah. I just think it's interesting. I think this is the next step in the new evolution of the new Batman.
And we definitely have.
It started pre the new launch, when Morrison was writing, and basically Bruce came back, back from the dead, basically. And his kind of opinion on the stuff that's around him changed to some degree. I mean, the guy's still incredibly judgmental and a lot of the other stuff that he always was, I think. But there is this other side of him, and I think he's realizing that, we've had how many years now of him being the Dark Knight, this, mostly brooding and everything is, really depressing and whatnot. And here he's, I don't know, celebrating is the right word, but he's talking about the fact he's going to start celebrating, the wedding anniversary as opposed to their death and whatnot. And the old Bruce would have put Damien in a box. He wouldn't be, and not to say that he's still not going to decide that that's what he should do, but I don't think the old Bruce would have dealt with this kid at all.
No, he would have fired him,
Yeah,
as Bruce is fond of doing all the time.
yeah. I mean, this whole first thing that has happened here would be enough that he'd be, no, forget it, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very end, you're my son, and you got to earn this, the right to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll let him know when he has. I think it's going to be a good comic. I wasn't sure either, to tell you the truth. I wasn't. Some of the examples that we had briefly before the relaunch of Bruce and Damien together, I wasn't really all that excited about, and so I was apprehensive about this comic because I really was enjoying the Dick Damien relationship.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, some of the stuff that's just kind of, I thought was fun, how Dick lets a lot of that stuff just kind of roll,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of goes on with whatever, and Batman can be so stiff, Bruce can be so stiff that maybe that wasn't going to be the enjoyable thing to do. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how well this came across too. So
Yeah, this is definitely going to. I'll be getting this for at least the first storyline.
yeah, but I really like the art. I mean, I think it's pretty, it's pretty clean, it's pretty sharp. I think anybody new that's picking up this comic is going to be attracted to it. It's got good lines, good color. There's some great splash lines in there, and quite frankly, I can't wait for the next issue. I'm hoping that the next issue we get to see the the poor guys that are all mutated inside the gyroscope, because it'll be fun to see him have to deal with the consequences of the fact.
Oh yeah.
That
Or Damien will.
well, right. So
Yeah, speaking of the art, that one panel where they're in the sewer, where in the alley, where the pearls are, we see his memory or what he thinks of as the pearls are dropping into the sewer. That's a great panel.
Yeah.
It's very cinematic. Patrick Gleason did a great job on that.
Yeah. Yep.
What'd you think of the bat poles?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I know it's just a callback to the
Sure.
60s show, but yeah, that just seems really kind of stupid to have that.
Well, how else do they quickly get downstairs? Ride an elevator?
Yeah, why not?
Because if you have any sort of power issues, an elevator doesn't work real well.
Oh, come on. The Batman doesn't have backup generators and backup generators?
Or he could just have a pole, because a pole never becomes unfunctional.
Good point. Okay, fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a good issue.
Yes, it was.
A good number.
All around fun.
Yeah.
All around fun.
Okay. Next is Batwoman.
Yeah. I love this comic.
Okay. That's the second time now you say yeah that way, and I think, oh I know you did this. That's a good comic. You like it.
What could there be about this to hate?
Oh, are you
answer,
asking
right?
me? Or
yeah, I'm asking you. What could there be about this comic
question.
to hate? Because it is rhetorical. I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's only one thing I'll bring up in a minute, but there's only one thing that might be questionable. But yeah, this is J.H. Williams III. So now he's co-writing this as well as being the artist. He's co-writing with W. Hayden Blackman, whom I do not know. Is that name familiar with you?
Yeah, I'm going to throw this out there, and I could be wrong, and please, anybody correct me if I'm wrong. I think I want to say that he wrote some Star Wars stuff, some Star Wars comics or that sort of thing. And I know that he's supposedly worked with Williams in the past, or at least that's the impression I get if I'm remembering some of the interviews I read way back, when this comic was supposed to first be coming out by these guys. That's been how long ago now? Almost a year? Whatever.
Yeah,
so they have feels like they have some work history together of some sort or another. So, But no, as far as him doing mainstream stuff, I'm not familiar with his name as far as him doing mainstream comics.
And then Dave Stewart on colors, and as much as we praise J.H. Williams III for his artwork and his page layouts, and I mean just everything he's doing here, I think Dave Stewart deserves a lot of credit too for how this book looks.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. As a matter of fact, I have from the detective run that had Batwoman in it. I have the 3 creators of that book. I have a comic that's signed by all 3 of them. Dave Stewart's the first one I seeked out to have signed it because I mean, J.H. Williams' black and white work is excellent, but Dave Stewart's colors on it make it so rich. I mean, it just, yeah, it's amazing. So I mean, I made a point of seeking him out and telling him, man, I mean, this guy's work, his lines are great, but what he adds to it in color is just, yeah.
Well, and just in terms of the Batwoman character herself, she's the way she visually pops out on the page, and every panel that she appears in is just. It's one of the best things about this book is just like Batwoman shows up on the page and you're like, wow. It's just I mean it almost looks real in some ways. It looks like a black leather outfit that she's wearing, and the boots just look real, and it's just amazing what these 2 guys do to create these images and tell the story in the way that they do. And then you get the other. There's basically 2 styles in this. Because when Batwoman is doing her stuff, that's one visual style,
right?
And then when it's not did I say Batgirl? Batwoman.
Oh.
When it's not Batwoman stuff going on, it has a different style,
right?
Which I like. It's not jarring enough. The differences aren't jarring, I don't think, to where it's like, well, why is this done by 2 different people? It's not. I think one complements the other, and one tone fits, or I'm sorry, one art style fits the tone of what they're trying to tell. So yeah, it's great art. What I wonder though is because I wondered about this during Williams' run on the detective comic from a couple years ago, is we're praising the artistry of it, but is the story really there? And this is the first issue, so I'm not really sure yet, but I still have that nagging thought in the back of my head going, is there really a good story here? Or are we just so impressed by the artistry of it that we're just kind of overlooking that?
Is it a good comic? Is that what you're asking?
Not necessarily a good comic. I mean, that's part of it, but is it a well-written story, I guess, is the better way to put it.
Okay, well, for comics, a chunk of the story is the visuals, right?
Sure. But sometimes you can have a bad story, but the art is so good that you forgive it. I guess that's where I'm wondering.
Okay,
if
but I don't
we're
think
entering that territory.
I don't think so.
I'm not saying it's a bad story.
Right.
That was the wrong way to put it.
I understand what you're saying. The art's so gorgeous that we don't even think about the story. But I mean, to me, that's I guess I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that if that's the case. But I don't think that's the case. There's interesting stuff going on in this first issue. There's some definite mystery. As far as the mystery superhero part of it goes, there's interesting stuff going on. We get reintroduced to secondary characters, and they obviously seem to have their own lives, and there's some interest there. They even took the time to explain the dust up between Kate and her father in there, as to why she's got such an issue with the Colonel, since how her partner. The one thing about this that's somewhat confusing, why is it there, kind of a deal that's left over from the old comic, which I don't know that they needed unless they plan on using her in some interesting way,
Mm-hmm.
is her cousin, right? She's her cousin?
Betty Kane? Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised to see that she's still in it. I thought that would be something with the relaunch. Of course, this comic was finished, my understanding, was finished many months ago.
Oh, yeah.
But that maybe they would have pulled her out because they're, because I don't know that she, I mean, if she's going to be part of the new plot line, great. Obviously she is, I hope. But they could have easily dropped her out of it because this is a relaunch and not even dealt with it at all.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because this is a whole holdover from the old. This confused my wife. The whole, why is she wearing a jumper and being called a plebe and
oh,
that
really?
whole, yeah, it threw her off. She wasn't sure why that was, why that whole thing was going on, as far as that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting is whereas there's some comics that were released that people are willing to gasp over the sexuality and all that kind of part of the comic and whatnot. There's naked people in this one. Man, I did not hear a single, what was the point? Was there a reason to show them, almost not wearing anything? I mean,
yeah, but they're not. But they're just changing clothes, and yeah, there's bare skin, there's panties and bras, but it's not overtly sexual, I guess. Is probably the main difference.
Okay.
It's just two women getting dressed.
Okay.
As opposed to what you're talking about.
Well, right, but at the same time, was it needed, or is it just an opportunity to show us?
Yeah, you're right, exactly. So what I mean, other than the fact that we constantly see superheroes putting on their uniforms all the time. Yeah, did we need to see an almost naked Betty Kane? Do we need to see her in her panties? Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, I just think it's funny. Is that I think that to some degree, this is an untouchable comic.
You think?
Oh yeah. It's hard to say something bad about it, isn't it? I think it's hard to say something bad about it.
Oh, you just mean in terms of how good it is, as opposed to people don't criticize it for some reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you'd have to go way. I mean, this isn't out of character, so you have to go. I think you're gonna have to go way off base before, and really make these people horrific. Before I think there's a large part of the blogosphere that gets upset about these sorts of things before they're going to go after this comic, because it's a darling comic. It's won awards for representing the gay lifestyle and that sort of stuff. So I just think it's, to some degree, it's untouchable in some ways. Not that I think it's done anything wrong.
Right.
Because it's an awesome comic.
So, you talked about the Betty being confusing some of the people in your family that read it. What do you think of the bit towards the end where Kate is, where we find out basically why her and her father are estranged right now? And you get this 2-page spread, and you follow the panels through the diagonal middle of the 2-page spread, and that's the dialogue going on, and the rest of it, the background imagery is filling you in visually on what's happened. Do you think that perhaps new readers might find that confusing to follow as to who is who and what happened, and without having read the previous series?
Maybe.
Or does it? It
might
really
be difficult to decide how you want to look at it. Because I mean, when I first opened up this page, I did look at it and go, "Well, that's cool looking. Okay, now how do I want to proceed across them?" My eye immediately wants to go towards the panels that are running down the middle, that's what I did. Is I read what was there.
Oh yeah.
And then I looked visually at what was what was going on around there. That might be confusing for any reader. I don't know.
I think so a little bit, but then again, you need to know. I don't fault it too much because I think it works. But however, uh, as much as we are praising the artwork here, again, I think maybe it might be a little too much. The way we have the panel layouts, the page layouts. Um, it's not just this two-page spread, but there's another one in here where we have this skeleton-looking thing.
Right. Back further.
Yeah, it's a
when they're
little further
dragging
back.
a body out of the water or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Things like that. I think maybe are not as accessible to new comic readers.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that because I think people will enjoy this because it's challenging and not in a bad way to read. It's not panel 1.
You're right. It is challenging.
Panel 3, panel 4. That gets boring after a while.
Sure, I agree with you.
Oh, so I think this is so eye-catching because it's not that it adds an interest to want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just 6 panels or 9 panels on a page saying blah 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 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and
so I don't think that's a deterrent unless you want really easily consumable comics. If you want dumb comics, you're right. This is not for you.
Well, I think it is not as accessible as others, but it's not inaccessible. Because Williams does a really good job at helping us visually to know how to read it, which I've seen other artists try and do this kind of stuff, and it's not as easy. They didn't, their storytelling technique was not as refined perhaps, and you get confused as to which way you're supposed to read. Are you supposed to read from top down, left, right, whatever?
Right.
But I think Williams does a good job here.
Yeah. I find his artwork intriguing, and it's not just those big crazy panels where it's got a Batman symbol and then it's chopped up into lots of little bits and pieces and whatnot.
I like the Batman symbol when it's chopped into pieces.
And that would be my son interjecting his little bit into it.
I didn't quite hear that. What did he say?
He says he likes the Batman symbol with the little chopped up pieces in it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the artist changes styles. I to some degree, I think a couple times, because we get this little segment in the middle that has to do with some characters that we just introduced to, Agent Chase and a guy with a skull head, Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones.
I don't even know if they ever actually did they actually say his name in here. Nope.
I don't believe so.
Nope, they don't. So unless you know who Chase is, who I know who Agent Chase is, or Bones, those are people that are, totally. But even that, if you notice, those panels and the way they're inked is completely different than the stuff where it's just Kate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's at least 3 different styles going on here.
Yeah, but they all work. Because this has this in the middle here has kind of a level of sinisterness to it. It reminds me of Desolation Jones. It's got that style to it.
That's right.
It has an edginess to it, a roughness to it that's reminiscent of that.
And so speaking of the various styles, what did you think of that in the first half of the book where Kate goes to the police station and she meets up with the other cop? I can't remember her name now.
Detective, yeah.
Sawyer? Yeah, Detective Sawyer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that sequence there where she's looking at all these pictures of police officers on the wall, and then one panel goes completely white, black and white, except for the picture of Renee Montoya.
Uh-huh.
What'd you think of that?
I thought it was interesting. So it obviously made a focal point, and I don't, so that focal point, I don't know if that was for us, the new readers, that didn't catch her as being the focal point in the page before that, where she's singled out in a panel, This is the one. There's one thing I did read about this comic before I read it, and it had to do with this sequence. And J.H. Williams explains this sequence because some people were concerned because we have all these questions about who survived the new DCU and who hasn't. And there's a question of whether or not Renee survived. Is the question, or she does not exist at all, or whatever. And some people took this whole sequence as being we all know, or at least we're shown on TV, that there always seems to be a wall of fallen officers.
Right.
Their pictures, and people thought that that's what this was. That this was a set of pictures having to do with officers being dead, and that Renee was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so he explains that that's not the case. That this was a set of people who got accommodations, and the reason the panels were set the way they were was to separate. It was kind of a passing on. She's moved beyond her now, and that's what that whole sequence was supposed to be in some sense. I don't know that I got that out of it, but I'm glad he said something because I may have read this and myself also thought, oh my gosh, this is a wall of dead people.
Well, that's definitely how I took it when I first read it, and
right.
I sure as hell wouldn't take
right.
that sequence to mean that Kate is over Renee.
Yeah,
I would think that's just the opposite. Shall we go to the next one, or
sure.
Or do you want to talk about the other one some more?
Well, let's talk about that for just a second more.
Okay.
So you reading it, you thought it was that she was a dead and beyond, and I really think that I probably would have thought it was that way too, if I hadn't read that thing. I mean, I might have wondered because it doesn't really imply that,
mm-hmm.
At the end here, it doesn't say that she's dead. She just says that that's that they were an item.
Right. But you take that idea and you couple it with, okay, so she's talking with Sawyer. They're talking about
right.
getting a beer,
and then that dead white panel,
and then right in the middle of that conversation, you get this internal viewpoint panel of Kate,
mm-hmm.
staring at Renee's picture, who is colored in amongst all this black and whiteness, and it's just, oh hell, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, it does. It really does lead to that. It really does focus you in on. Yeah, I mean, certainly that's what it would have left with me too. If I hadn't read that little piece that when he talked about it, I would have been going, "Oh man, they killed her." I would have been on Twitter going, "Yeah, actually, they killed Renee Monte. Yeah, so much for diversity in the DC universe." And
see here, that's a problem then, because artistically, what Williams is saying about this sequence is totally not what we took. So in that sense, it kind of fails. Now, whether or not like I said, I initially took the pictures of all the cops there to be fallen officers, but I could excuse that. Like you said, I also thought it was perhaps they were being maybe these are all the cops that made detective, or they've received commendations of some sort.
Sure.
That's fine. It's that one panel, that black and white panel, that makes me question all that. Is she dead, or is this just I'm not over this person. Well, at this point, I don't think, if you're a new reader, you come into this, you don't know what's going on here between these two characters. You just know that Kate is sad about something. There's some relationship there that strikes a chord with her, and not in a positive way.
Right.
So, yeah. However Williams explains it, emotionally, I think it still works here. It's just that his intent and my interpretation of it are completely different.
Right.
So,
yeah.
In that way, I guess it fails a little bit, but it still works within the context of what I'm reading.
Still an awesome comic, in my opinion. I'm just as stoked to get the next issue, as I was getting this issue. I was chomping at the bit, waiting for this thing to come in. You don't know how hard it was when I went to the store to pick up the comics that weren't on my pull. not to pick this up anyway. Even though I knew it was coming, but I had to wait for it to come in the mail,
So
kind of a thing,
we both agree that this one's on our pull list for sure.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I like the character. I mean, the
Yeah.
art's gorgeous and whatnot. We know that so many issues down the road, when this arc is over with, another artist takes over doing the art, and I'm just as excited about that, to tell you the truth.
Do you know who the artist is?
Amy Reeder.
Really?
She's been doing well, a while back. There was that issue 0 where she did half of the work and he did half the work.
Mm-hmm.
Where she did the artwork when it's Kate Kane, and when it's Batwoman, it was J.H. Williams did the artwork. So she did all of it when Kate's Kate in it. So she'll be doing the next arc, because that's how they're planning on doing it, is them swapping arcs and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
So, and I like her work too. So
Yeah, that'll be good.
Just as excited for that, because I like the character too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd buy it because it had gorgeous art. Don't get me wrong, because I could look at it without reading the words for a long time and be as happy could be. But I like the character too. So.
Would you say, out of all the books you've read so far, the New 52, that artistically this is probably the best?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. On a number of levels. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's just the most eye-catching. It's challenging also. It's challenging to the eye, but not impossible to to absorb and and know what's going on in it. But there's lots and lots there. I mean, I can keep going back and opening up and re-looking it over again and seeing something else that's added to it that I didn't see the first time around. So yeah, it definitely artistically is the top of the top.
Okay, let's go on to Demon Knights by Paul Cornell, with art by, I'm going to say this wrong, I know. Oh gosh, where is it? There it is. Diogenes Neves is the penciler, and Eau Claire Albert is the inker, with Marcelo Milo. Boy, I hope I don't offend people when I mispronounce their names. I hate it when they do that with me. Anyway, he's the colorist. This one is another one that surprised me. I got it just because I was curious what they were going to do with this medieval take on the DC universe. But I've never been a big Etrigan fan.
Oh,
the character's okay, but I find him very limiting in what they do with him, and maybe that's just a fault of the writers. But it just never really grabbed my attention like other characters have. But I tried it, and once again, pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoy this comic.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm really sold on this comic.
Really?
I didn't dislike it. It felt like, going back to my role playing days, it felt like the beginning of any, D&D that I go on.
Yeah.
You're playing one of the heroes. You show up in the bar, and something bad happens, and you end up hooking up with the other heroes that are in the bar to figure out whatever it is. Doesn't that seem trope? To me, it seems there's nothing new about that whatsoever. That part of it. So
I took that to mean they were kind of paying homage to that old trope. It's
okay.
Meet in the bar, go on an adventure.
So when is it playing homage to that, and when is it just a trope?
I know.
When you enjoy it, it's playing to it. When you don't, that's where I was at with that part of it. Now, saying that, I like the characters that they have, that they are using. It's going to be interesting to see, this is obviously a point, like in, Vandal Savage is in here.
Yeah.
He's not being a total, at this moment anyway, he's not being a total megalomaniac trying to take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a younger Madame Xanadu, that's somewhat interesting. I've always got,
and tied to the King Arthur legend.
Right. I've always been amused by the female Shining Knight. and it looks like she might be interested in this whole thing.
Oh, so I want to ask you about that.
Uh-huh.
So the way you just said that, so the female Shining Knight has been, you've seen this character before.
Yeah, Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers
Really?
of Victory.
Wow.
Yeah, she's one of the Seven Soldiers, and you don't know. I'm pretty sure you don't know she's female to start out with, and it kind of becomes, oh, she's a lady. Okay,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
I
It's been a long
forgot
time since
all
I've
about
read that, but yeah.
because
Yep.
I read this and I'm like, wow, they're taking a different or they have a different take on this character. But I guess I thought, well, maybe there's something to that, the Seven Soldiers, but I didn't really think about it all that much because I completely have forgotten that Shining Knight was female in that series.
hmm
So that's
hmm
good. That's I like that.
And supposedly one of the characters that Paul Cornell is all excited about is the female archer, which you almost can't even tell that she's female, on the horseback, which I thought was kind of unfortunate. If he's
Oh,
really excited about that character, you almost don't get any of her other than her, you know.
and she's a new character, isn't she?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and she's handicapped.
Oh, that's
Supposedly.
right. I remember that now.
She's supposed to be filling all these niches and whatnot, which I question whether or not she really does that in the fantasy realm and whatnot.
Hmm.
But I kind of like the whole. I'm curious about the relationship between Madame Xanadu, the demon, and
And
Jason
Blood.
Blood.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. I kind of like the bad guys. I mean, I know in some ways they come across as somewhat stereotypical.
Yeah.
The
Medieval.
scrying baby, though, that was
Ooh.
a nice touch. I
Yeah.
thought.
This is a fun book.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a real fun read.
Yeah. My son's really excited about it. He likes more fantasy oriented stuff.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
So this is definitely within his what he likes and whatnot. So.
And with everything,
Yeah.
with this starting off with, so Arthur is going off to Avalon, and they chuck the sword in, and you get Merlin tied to the demons. So you get that the well-known fantasy sword and sorcery stuff coming in there, tying into the DC universe. So I think that works really well for new readers, even if you don't know Etrigan like we do. He's just some demon that's been put into the body of a young boy, and having to deal with that. And then you got Mordru's in here, and if you read Legion and some other titles, you know who Mordru is. But here, he's just some sorcerer guy, some wizard, intent on taking over the world, as most bad wizards want to do. So you get those familiar tropes, but set in the DC universe. I think it works really well. Another Paul Cornell book that I really was surprised by, and I'm looking forward to reading what comes next.
Yeah, I think I am. This is another one of those books I'm kind of on the fence about. There are parts I like and parts that I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I said, I don't know whether it's playing homage or it's just So
Retreading those tropes.
right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's new stuff. I think it's new stuff for DC, and I'm happy that it's one of those comics that's like the Men of War comic, and that it's taking characters we're somewhat familiar with, but putting them in a completely different genre, really. So I guess if nothing else, kudos for DC for trying to write a different genre comic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
what
sure.
This is. It's in enough of a different setting that I'm happy for them to be doing that just for that, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. And I think the creative team they put together on this will help it succeed as long as the audience will come to it and give it a chance.
Yeah.
We skipped Deathstroke, but only because neither of us read that title.
Right.
Yeah, I just had no interest. I have not had any interest in that character in quite a while. When they turned him, to be quote unquote the bad guy again, I'd lost interest in Slade Wilson as Deathstroke.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the whole Titans. As soon as the Titans quit being heroes and was the team that he was in charge of and whatnot,
Right.
I certainly didn't read any. I certainly didn't read any of that. I read the Flashpoint miniseries that he was in, but that's a completely different can of worms. It has nothing to do with any of this really. So, yeah. I mean, I heard from the internet there's lots of people that are all excited about it, but it's just another turnoff for me was the artwork for that book. They show him with this big, huge, ridiculous, over the top, in my opinion, more anime looking type giant sword. And I see that and I go, okay, I know he's a little bit super strength, dexterity, quick, whatever, but there's no way in hell you can wield something like that. Like they show him wield it. And so that's for me, that's a turnoff. That style of thing just does nothing for me. I don't want to see people walking around with swords that are as wide as their torso and stuff. That's just, I don't buy it. So that turned me off, and so I didn't get it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on then. So next up
Yep.
is Frankenstein, Agent of Shade.
Yeah. I'm kind of bummed about this comic.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I want to be really excited for it. I like the idea of it. There are some ideas in the comic that I'm excited about, but I don't know that it executed any of it very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually wasn't going to get this. This is one of the ones I was not going to get at all, but I decided to try it out, the first issue anyway, and so I grabbed it off the shelf at the comic book shop, and much like the Flashpoint series featuring Frankenstein and some of these same characters, or variations of these same characters, I just was not impressed. I just sometimes I think Jeff Lemire has this reputation for being a good writer, and some of the things that he's written, I just don't see that, and this is one of them. It's like, this is not impressive at all. It's just big monster-looking guys going around killing things.
Yeah, it didn't capture anything. That's the problem. Whereas when he wrote Animal Man, it captures something, and this doesn't capture anything.
Mm-hmm.
That captures a family life and stuff, and this doesn't. You're right. It's just monster special. There's some interesting ideas in this. I kind of like the ant farm, for instance. The whole idea that their whole thing is in this giant thing. It's actually this little thing.
Yeah,
I thought that part was fun.
And Ray Palmer.
And I like
is part of it.
Because I know, because my understanding is that the Atom is not Ray. It's going to be Ryan Cho. Yeah. So the fact they're still using the character, I think, is amusing. I mean, I'm sure if you're a big Atom fan, maybe you're ticked off that he's been, reduced to just being a pathetic, well, not pathetic, but just a scientist that's the liaison between the government and this group of people. I mean, I find it amusing that that Father Time is a little girl in a school dress. That part's amusing, but there's so much. My problem is there's so much potential that there could be in this book, but it's all flat. They didn't. There's nothing in this to unless you just like watching monsters splatter other monsters.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this that's that interesting.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm not expecting anybody to rewrite what Grant Morrison wrote, like in the Seven Soldiers, for instance. But in the Seven Soldiers, Frankenstein was interesting.
Yes.
In that.
And that's the only reason that I picked up the Flashpoint series and that I tried this first issue out was I and perhaps unfairly, I was expecting that Frankenstein to show up, and he never did.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm gonna get a few more issues because, of course, it's on on my poll, and so I'm pre-ordered a few issues in advance, so I'll get it through that. But probably next month when I go to my comics, this won't be one that I'll actually order. If it suddenly turns around in the comics that I've already got ordered, now then I'll start picking it up off the shelf again and put it back on my poll. But right now, yeah, I'm just kind of bummed because I was excited about it, and like I said, I like the idea of the characters and whatnot. I think are cool, but there was nothing in this for me to care about.
Right.
It was all just flat.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I won't be picking up any future issues at all.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Green Lantern. And I know you are not a Green Lantern fan.
Yawn.
So I mentioned before how some Dan DiDio and Jim Lee and others have talked about how some things in the DC universe, going from the old universe to this relaunched universe, will pretty much stay intact, and this is one of those things. This is not. While I think it's a great issue of Green Lantern, I really like what they're doing with Sinestro here, him being a Green Lantern again, although against his own judgment. He's being forced into it, and no one knows why, not even the Guardians. I really like that, and what Jeff Johns shows of Hal Jordan, who is no longer a Green Lantern, and how he deals with his life now that he no longer wears the ring, and he doesn't have a job, and he doesn't have a car, and all that stuff. It's mildly interesting there, especially at the end when Hal's basically reached his last straw here with his girlfriend, with everything in his life, and then Sinestro shows up and says, "If you want your ring back, you'll do everything I say." So it'd be interesting to see what goes from here. But having said all that,
how can that be a number one?
Yeah,
well, you just told me, how can that be a number one for Green Lantern of a relaunch?
Exactly.
Because I might be going into this thing from the movie. Oh wow.
Yeah, I think DC made a huge misstep in launching Green Lantern, a new number one Green Lantern, in this way. This is not new reader friendly. Okay, even if you come at from the point of view I watched the movie, I liked it, I want to know more, so you go pick up Green Lantern and you open it up and you see Sinestro, and so okay, you go along there, but then you get to the part where Hal is not Green Lantern. That does, that's just going to throw new readers off. It's like, what the heck happened here? And why is he not Green Lantern? And what's going on? I don't want to read something about an alien Green Lantern. I want to read about the guy that I saw on the big screen.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Just that. But even if you just totally remove the movie from the equation, Green Lantern is this guy Sinestro from another world. That's not what I've, if I have any idea of what Green Lantern's about, that's not what I know of. So yeah, it's a big fail for new readers, definitely. But I thought it was a great continuation of what came before, and I can't wait to read more of this. And you should pick it up, Travis.
No. Nope. I have probably even less interest in Green Lantern than I do in Superman. So.
Oh wow.
No, it has never appealed to me. I'm just curious as a new reader how confusing also that Green Lantern's got to be. If I know that the Justice League starts out 5 years in the past, but who's Green Lantern?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Hal or is it? And then So does that first issue explain why Hal doesn't have the ring anymore and stuff?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or did that happen? Or did that happen before this number one?
Well, it did. It did happen before this, but I'm wondering if in the dialogue he has, if it's explained. And I'm flipping through real quick. I think it is. I think there's a conversation between Hal and Carol, and I'm probably getting this all wrong. Yeah. Yep. It's the conversation between those two. You get the reason why Sinestro is the Green Lantern and Hal isn't. But yeah, it still doesn't. I mean, that's more than halfway through the book, I think.
Mm.
So, for a new reader to get to that point and go, oh, this is what happened, and still be interested, I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Anyway.
Okay. Seems strange to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. Still a good read though. So let's go to the next one, which I did not read, but you did. Grifter.
Good call on your part, not reading it, in my opinion. Yes.
And why is that?
Grifter in it. Let's see. That's written by Nathan Edmondson, pencils by Cafu, inked by Jason Gardner, and colors by Andrew Dahlhaus. I don't know. This comic just had nothing for me. I mean, I'm not really familiar with the Grifter character at all. This is a Wildstorm character that I'm not familiar with. But to me, it was kind of billed as being, hey, there's this guy that, sees, he sees bad guys where no one else sees bad guys. Who's the crazy person? I thought, oh, that might be interesting. Well, at least pick up the first issue because, I mean, the art can't fail. I've liked everything that I've read of that Cafu's done the artwork for, so I thought, okay, that's, it'll at least look good or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. This comic absolutely did nothing for me. The art does look okay. Not as good as some of the other stuff I've seen, so I don't know if that's an inker / colorist sort of thing or not. I think this is poorly explained. That seems to be, from what I can get from reading the thing, there's some aliens that are invading Earth. Basically, they're snatching people's bodies, and they basically kick your conscious out and then take over the body and run the body. Somehow, that whole process gets screwed up or interrupted, and our main character ends up to where he can see these aliens inside people's bodies, but he himself is not possessed. The main character is a quote-unquote grifter. I mean, he's kind of a bad guy in that, he kind of weasels people out of their money and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume that's why the whole thing's called, grifter the way it is. He ends up getting screwed over by his partners that he was basically partners in crime with. He's lost like 17 days worth of time that he can't place. And he thinks he's been out for like 7 hours or something like that, but he's lost actually 17 days. And there's some military people that are supposedly after him in the whole process thing. And at the very end, he's sitting in a cemetery and he dons the grifter mask for no apparent reason. Other than, well, I may be crazy and I want my 17 hours back, and he dons this mask. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't know. And I'm sure there are people out there who like this comic who are going, oh, you're a dumbass. You didn't read the same comic as me. And maybe I didn't. I don't know. But this, like I said, this was, to me, it just felt like it was kind of all over the place. I don't mind mystery. You don't have to explain everything to me. But I think you needed to give us better clues than what was, given here. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I will not be picking up the next issue of it.
It's funny. Everything that you just said about the complaints you've registered against this comic are the same exact complaints I've heard on other podcasts I've listened to.
Well, good. I'm glad somebody else read the same book as me.
Yeah. They were no one I know, or no one I've listened to, I should say, is pleased with that book. So, before we move on, I wanted to note quickly. I forgot to say who the creators behind Green Lantern were. So I don't want it to be the one left out. But so Green Lantern was written by Jeff Johns, of course. Pencils by Doug Mahnke, who's been doing the work for quite a while on this title. Inks by Christian Alamy with Tom Nguyen, and colors by David Barron. So there you go. There's that one. Next on the list is Legion Lost. This is by Fabian and, oh boy, here we go, Nicieza, however you pronounce that, with art by Pete Woods and Brad Anderson on colors. Um, when I saw this one solicited, I thought, no way. I'm not going to like this. But I got it anyway because it's Legion. I love the Legion. And I read this, and I will not be picking this up. I will not be getting number 2. I'm sorry I wasted my $2.99 on it. This was just a big failure on in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to like it. I mean, I have lots of issues with the Legion as a general rule, but I thought, okay, this is going to be enough. Not the Legion. I mean, it's another team book, but it's not the Legion. I mean, even though they're called the Legion Lost, because they're going to have to deal with their own stuff that doesn't have to do with being the Legion, being trapped where they're at, and the whole premise that my understanding of what this was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure even if I was up current on what the heck's going on in the actual Legion book right now, that I would have a freaking clue what was going on from this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure I know who all the people's names are that are in this issue that I read. Unfortunately. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a Legion book. I'm done with Legion books. I won't. Yeah. I don't know. I don't. I guess I really have anything to say about this because I don't think there was a lot that there were even any bright spots in it really.
No.
I was even surprised that the fact is that the reason I got this book also, not only because it was a team book, I thought, well, I'll give this a chance, because it's got a different setting to it than the most Legion stuff. I'm generally a fan of Pete Woods' artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he changes his artwork, his art style with every new project that he gets on. He tends to try and do something different. So each thing has its own look for him as far as him doing it. Plus, I think it's a way for him to keep from getting bored of drawing the same stuff basically over and over again. And even that didn't really work a whole lot for me. I hate to say, because I like the guy, but
yeah.
It's not a style, and I can't really place what it is about it per se that I don't like. Because I mean, I could tell people's emotions by looking at their faces and whatnot, and that doesn't feel repetitive and whatnot. I mean, even does somewhat of an okay job of giving Wildstorm a face, and quite frankly, he doesn't have a face because he's just a giant ball of energy inside of a suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, just didn't. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's on my pull list, so I'll be getting a few issues of it, but it'll be at the bottom of my things I read when I get it, and
yeah.
it'll be off my pull for next time because there was nothing here that really. I mean, oh no, there's some mutants been released into the world. Really? Okay, I don't know. Yeah, enough for me to say about it.
Well, see, that to me that potentially has the problem of it being a short-term story, because eventually you think they'd have to fix whatever they came back to fix.
Okay, so they fixed that, but they're still stuck here because time travel's basically been eliminated, hasn't it?
Well, there's certainly problems, but obviously they got back from the 31st century, and they do reference, and I know this has been referenced a couple times in some of the comics about the Flashpoint. Wall or event or whatever they call it.
That was bad too.
I really wish they hadn't done that in any comic. The whole Flashpoint thing should not ever be mentioned ever again.
Because you didn't like Flashpoint that much, or
no, I liked it well enough as the event. I just think
it screws with the relaunch.
Yeah.
The new reader friendly going forward, not having to know what was in the past.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then, so then a couple other things on this title. The fact that they call it Legion Lost, I never really liked the stories where the Legion were displaced in time, because they never seem to fit when they do that. And it's always short-lived because they eventually get everybody back to the 31st century where they belong. And then you have these specific groups of characters, and then I think in the end, and that's the other thing, and maybe I just read through it quickly because I didn't care, but it looks like that two of the characters end up perishing, which is Gates and Yura, who is the shape changer.
They're raining on them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're dead. So that leaves Tyrock, Timberwolf, Dawnstar, Tellus, and Wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't particularly care about any of those characters individually. It's always them paired with other characters where I enjoy them. So having all those characters there together does nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So this book is a lot of marks against it, just by the basic premise. Okay, maybe we'll go into something a little more palatable. Why don't you take the next one, Mr. Terrific?
Yeah, it's because you want me to say the artist's last names, which you
Oh.
know I can't. Oh, Mr. Terrific #1, written by Eric Wallace with who specifically does what? Penciler, man. Yeah, I'm not even gonna attempt to say the guy's name. His last name is what? Gugliotta?
Gugliotta, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Gianluca? I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. and Wayne Fokker.
Faulkner?
Fokker.
We just did the movie bit right there.
Just did, and I apologize. Like I said, I'm really bad with people's names.
Maybe it's Voucher.
It could be, but yeah, ouch. At any rate, boy, I really like the first 2 opening pages of this comic.
Mm-hmm.
They get me, like right into something exciting's happening. And I even like the artwork here. And then I don't know, there's parts of this book that I like and parts that kind of spin out of control. The art, for me, I have a problem with. It's inconsistent.
Yeah.
I actually did a video blog on this, and I talked a little bit about the fact that Mr. Terrific, his new costume, I'm fine with. I'm confused by his mask. Is his mask, the T on his face, is it red or is it blue? First is my first question, because it's red on the cover, and in the interiors it's blue, but it has kind of a red shine. And the red shine is always down towards his chin. Well, sometimes his face is drawn, and it's kind of proportionally kind of messed up. And so between being proportionally messed up and then it being red, makes it look like somebody just mangled him or mauled him.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a problem with that part of it, because because then it looks like somebody beat him up off panel, and then suddenly he shows up and he's been beat up by somebody, and I'm like, what happened there? One of the other issues I have with the comic is I get tired of them telling me every couple pages that he's the 3rd smartest man.
Yeah.
How many times do we need to be told that? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mention it once and move on.
Right. Another question I would have as a new reader. Okay, so he has an Olympic gold medal. In what? Do you know what he has Olympic gold medal in?
No.
I don't either. I mean, I used to read I read the JSA, and he was in that, and he was, and I enjoyed him in that, but I don't know tons about the character. So I decided I'd pick this up thinking, okay, well, this is going to give me an opportunity to really learn something about this character. It could be an interesting comic and whatnot. So he told me a lot of stuff in a couple pages instead of showing me, which of course isn't necessarily a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just telling us, not showing us. But it rattles off some of these things, like I'm reading it on some, dating website or something, I guess. And, well, it is. It's like a list. It's like a litany list of, I got all this stuff. I, run a great company. I have a gold medal, more degrees than you can shake a blah, blah, blah. What does he have a gold medal in? Why does that matter? Why? I mean, I don't know. Anyway. So that part
because he's a physical guy as well as a smart guy.
Is that what having a gold medal means? Olympic gold medal means?
I think that's what that translates to. Yeah.
Oh.
He's either a track and field or some other physical activity, which would explain why he could do some of the things that he does.
Boxing.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. I guess that was one of the things that kind of bugged me. I was like, okay, you told me that, but I don't have any frame of references to what that has to do with. I mean, if he had said that along with
I mean, because some of this it shows him popping, champagne and whatnot. Obviously, his company's successful because they're popping champagne and celebrating something. So okay, that all works with what's being told there. But nowhere along here does it show me anything that references a gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm just hung up on that, and I shouldn't be. But
Maybe
most of the other
just
stuff
a
is,
tiny bit.
but most of the other stuff is referenced in some way. The pictures reference most of the other things that are being talked about. The fact he had a great wife, well, and the great wife gets, dies, and I don't know. So yeah, I have issues with that part. But there's other parts I thought were interesting. I think this comic could be interesting. I'm curious about Karen Starr in here, who those of us who, have comic history, know that she was Power Girl before the relaunch. What she is now, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That she, that they're a couple, that they're, friends with benefits.
It sure looks that way, but I think
Why? Because she's sitting on a sofa. And granted, she's not wearing a lot, but I mean, she's wearing the equivalent of what would be considered somebody's pajamas, and she's sitting on a sofa.
Mm-hmm. But he's also.
See, I wasn't sure.
He's
well,
also
right.
there, in his bottoms there. I don't know. You're right. The clues are there that she's just staying over, but it is questionable in the way that it's presented.
Well, some people definitely took it as that she was, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't positive that maybe she didn't like, because to me, looking at the art, it almost looked like that the sofa was made up into a bed, and that maybe she was sleeping over on the sofa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because then you get later on, where they're at the party, towards the back of the thing, and she's just like, we're just friends.
Yeah.
She's saying we're friends. We're not anything. I'm not competition. I mean, she basically says, I'm not competition, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's kind of like, chill out. I'm not competition. So that then made me think, well, they must not be friends with benefits. Or
Well, I think that's definitely the case.
That they are?
That they are not friends with benefits, yeah.
Or does that make the Karen Starr character even that much more shallow, that they really are just friends with benefits and she wants nothing to do with him otherwise? I don't know. So there are parts about this comic that, like I said, that I don't. It could be interesting. I don't know. What do you think of it?
I was mildly interested. I think, other than maybe some of the storytelling technique here, I think it's a very accessible first comic for new readers. It's a new character. It's an African American character, so you get that diversity angle with DC, and I like the character of Mr. Terrific in general, in the pre-relaunch DC universe. So I like the new aspects of his life that were being shown in this #1 issue.
Right.
But I have the same issue that you do with the art and the consistency of it, and how some things, in story-wise, may be a little confusing, perhaps. But overall, it's okay. I won't be continuing with it. I just picked it up just to see what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I'm gonna get one more issue.
All right. Next is Red Lanterns. I assume, since you don't read Green Lantern, that you didn't read this one.
I was torn on getting this one or not, just because of who's writing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided no, I'm not going to get it because it's going to be a Lantern book, and somehow it's going to tie into the other Lanterns. And
yeah. Well, I remember when
I've got a flashlight. I don't need a lantern, so there you go.
I remember when this was first talked about, not solicited, but first talked about, and that was before they announced the New 52. And it was like, Red Lanterns? Okay, yeah, sure, I can see where they might want to do that, because the character of Atrocitus is an interesting character that they brought into Green Lantern, and now they're expanding that line. So I was on board to try it out at least. But again, like Green Lantern before it. Oh wait, let me go back. Let me skip back real quick. So Red Lanterns is done by Peter Milligan, whom we both like. I think in some past comics that he's done. Penciler is Ed Bennis, which I think we both like also. Inker Rob Hunter and Nathan Earing on colors. And again, like Green Lantern, I think the color artist is crucial to the success of the book because
How many shades of red can they use?
well, and not just red, but yeah, I mean there's a lot of different color variations that you have to deal with, especially when you're dealing with red or green
Sure.
in Green Lantern's case. But I think it's crucial to have a really good color artist on something like this. Because I remember back in the early '80s when I was reading some Green Lantern comics, and it always bugged the crap out of me when I'd read a Green Lantern comic and the beam out of his green ring was yellow. Because there was some issue with the coloring, and somehow when it got printed and shipped out, it was yellow.
Uh-huh.
And everybody at that time, we all know what is the Green Lantern's weakness?
Yellow.
The color yellow. So
Yeah.
that is a mistake that should never ever happen in a Green Lantern comic.
No doubt.
But anyway, but again, like as in with Green Lantern, I think that for the most, well, I don't want to say the most part. In some ways, this comic fails to be new reader friendly, but it does give you enough story to understand what's going on in terms of what the main character Atrocitus is going through and why he's doing it, and gets you into the story at least. Plus, you get the cat. There's you have the first page with some blue aliens. They're badass because they're torturing somebody, and then they get attacked by one of the Red Lanterns, which is the cat. I don't know if you've heard of the cat.
Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter.
Yes.
So you actually get 1, 2, 3. Basically, yeah,
vengeance.
3 pages of the cat wreaking havoc on this alien ship, and then the main character Atrocitus shows up. What are you doing to my cat?
Yep.
Which it's kind of lame, but at the same time, it's kind of fun.
No, it sounds fun to me.
So I enjoyed it. The art, Ed Bennis's art, along with the inker, really nice. Really good stuff here. I don't have a problem with much of anything that's being shown here. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes, because I will be getting this at least for the first few issues, because I'll give it a chance. Because I think Pete Milligan is a great writer, and I'm really curious what he's going to do, because he's known mostly for being kind of a more or less a Vertigo type writer.
He's definitely an edgy writer.
Yeah, he's an edgy guy, and so, but this is more along the lines of the standard superhero fare, even though you got the whole rage aspect of the Red Lanterns, and and they because they vomit this blood-like plasma, and instead of having energy rings like the Green Lanterns do, so they have this plasma that they regurgitate on you, and it burns through everything, and so
in this first issue, does it give you a plot as to what's going to go on? I mean, can you see? Oh, okay, this is going to be the first story is going to be about.
Not really.
I'm just curious.
There's
something that Milligan I think does lots is his stories can be long, and that was something I was kind of curious about in your somewhat standard superhero book, how well that was going to fare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the one thing that makes you wonder about the other book that's coming up that he's doing in the standard DC universe, how it will fare also. Because there are lots of times he'll write a storyline and you have to read for quite a while before you get the payoff. I like him because when I get that payoff, the whole thing was worth it and really cool.
Yeah.
But will it survive to the payoff?
Yeah, I honestly I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I think this. I like the idea of it, but I do, because I've read this character. I've read about the Red Lanterns for quite a while now in Green Lantern.
Right.
Does it have a broader appeal besides fans of Green Lantern? I don't think so. At least not yet. Not what I've been shown. So.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Somewhat enjoyable. I guess I'll keep getting it. But yeah, it's. I don't think it works very well as a new reader type book. All right. Next on our list is Resurrection Man. Do you want to take that one?
Resurrection Man, written by both Dan Bennett and Andy Lanning, art by Fernando Dagnino.
Sure.
I guess, and colors by Santi Arcus.
Yeah.
Sure. Um, this is a book I wasn't going to get. This is a book that wasn't on my pull. I just went and picked it up because as we got closer and closer to the time, I thought, well, maybe I'll at least give it a glance to see what was going on with it. I am not familiar with this character one iota. I do not believe I've read anything that has had Resurrection Man in it prior.
You have.
And
But
I
go
just
on.
didn't know it.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was
I'll
that?
explain it. Oh, you want to say it now? Well, I think there was a '90s Resurrection Man limited series or a short-lived series. I don't remember about that. But the thing that I know you've read him in, he appeared in at least one panel in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, well, jeez, okay. One panel. Oh, man, no wonder.
You know what's funny about that to me is that I think I knew of the character by the time I read that issue of Crisis, but I don't think I actually read anything where he actually appeared in the comic. And so
Right.
my introduction to that character is that panel where he's being shown dying in Crisis.
Nice.
So here we go now. See, that was 85. So how many years later? About 30 years later, almost. What I can't do math when I'm talking. A long time ago. Now we get this new series by these guys. And I got it solely because I like the idea of this guy who keeps dying and coming back, and why that is, and what's the purpose, and to see what this was about. But I didn't, it was okay. It looks and reads like a Vertigo comic, almost.
Maybe that's why I liked it.
Superheroes or superpowered beings, I guess. So yeah, I mean, looks wise, it's really familiar to me, having read a bunch of Vertigo stuff. But you still get that superhero angle with because he comes back with every time he's reborn, I guess he has different powers. And then you get the whole that weird angel or not angel, I guess demon looking. No, it has a halo, so it's sort of.
It's angel. It's an angel.
It's an angel. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So you get that, and then you get the two women at the end, or is it 2 or 3 women at the end?
Two.
Yeah, who are badass, and they're after him. And then at the very end, you get. Is that Xanadu? Madame Xanadu at the very end?
Yep. Sure is.
So that right there makes me go, I wonder what's coming next.
Yeah.
Especially since we just saw her in Demon Knights. So.
Yeah, she's in a couple. She's in a couple books. She's going to end up being. I think they're going to end up using her as a pretty big player in the magical aspect of. She's the new Phantom Stranger. Anytime anything really big is going to happen, she's around for it in some sense.
That's true.
Like, yeah, I like this comic actually. I like the opening sequence, and maybe you're right. Maybe because it's got that Vertigo feel to it. Maybe that's why I like it. I love his description of all the tastes of all the metal and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
metal and magical based and stuff. I'm much more intrigued by him than what I thought I was originally going to be. The fact that he comes back and has a pull towards what he should be doing, but he doesn't know what that is for sure he's supposed to be doing, but he's pulled towards it. So I think that's interesting is he's trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to be doing or not doing? And ultimately he wrecks the airplane. His body's what destroys the airplane of the people he's trying to save. Ironic and fun and interesting.
Yeah, not your typical superhero actions.
Right. So I was surprised. I was surprised by it because part of me, I'm really curious to see what goes forward because how long can they maintain this? If he dies, is he going to die every comic? Is he going to die every issue and have a new power every issue? How long can they maintain that?
I bet they don't. I bet he only dies when it's convenient for him to get a new power that he needs to use.
You think it'll be that obvious? I hope not.
Well, it was this time that when he died the the first time that we see him dying, he comes back and he needs to get away in the forest. So what is his power?
So he melts into the
He melts into tears and flows away.
right, flows away with the water.
Yeah, how convenient.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and I guess if that's the case, then that'll be something that quickly irritates me to no end.
Mm-hmm.
But
it has potential.
Yeah, I'm in for definitely for the next issue.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah,
and I like the fact that possibly there's higher powers that are vying for him in some. That's interesting too.
And obviously that could tie into that pull that he feels.
Right.
In some way, yeah.
Right. So yeah, there's enough stuff going on in it that I'm far more interested in that than I was going to be, because like I said, I had originally no intention to picking the book up at all.
Yeah, and I think it, for the most part, it's a pretty good new reader issue. Although someone picking up an issue of Batman or Superman may not like something like this, but if you are into something like this, and you're reading through it, I think you get introduced to the character and what he's about, and it's not didactic. It's not thrown in your face a million times. It just moves smoothly along from one plot point to the next. I think it works pretty well. So yeah, I'm into it.
Well, I think it does too. I mean, like I said, because I don't know anything about this comic at all, and it didn't introduce any characters that were, other than at the very end, Xanadu. But otherwise, it doesn't have any characters in it that we're familiar with, or at least not that I'm familiar with in any way, shape, or form. Superman doesn't make an appearance to try settle the comic book into some reality, or Batman doesn't show up somewhere to pass on something or anything like that. I mean, it's other than Man of Xanadu at the end, it's really out there on its own.
That's true.
As far as the thing. Now, does that mean the comic survives for any length of time? I don't know, because it is more of a niche, type comic. It definitely falls under the more of the Vertigo type taste type of a thing. But maybe that's part of the point is you can convince those people that only read a Vertigo title, because they're not superhero titles, that there's something they can read in the DC proper that would interest them too.
Yeah, I bet you that was something that they planned for sure. Try and get Swamp Thing is another example of that. Animal Man to a certain degree, yeah. Try and get the people who read DC Comics Vertigo line, but not the other bits. Try and get some cross readers here. I hope it works, but yeah. Resurrection Man definitely is a step in that direction. Okay, next up, Suicide Squad by Adam Glass, with art by artists, it says, Federico Dallaccio, Ransom Getty, and Scott Hanna. That's interesting. So it says artists, and it lists 3 names. So what do they all do? And colorist Val Staples. So this is what they replaced our beloved Secret Six with, sort of.
No, they didn't.
You don't think so?
It's got Deadshot. That's the first mistake going into this book. If you're going into this book thinking, okay, this is the Secret Six replacement.
Yeah.
Drop it in the shredder now. Don't read the thing.
Or maybe hand it to someone who would like to read it, so they read the comic. Don't drop it in the shredder, in other words.
This is not a replacement for Secret Six.
And
I won't accept
that. There's a shark.
So? He's a shark with eye stalks.
Well, you know what? Despite that problem, or potential problem, it should not be a Secret Six replacement. Yes, even though we have a few characters in common. We're going back to that concept from the. When did Suicide Squad first come out? That was late 80s, early 90s?
I think so.
It's late 80s. I think it came out of...
Because they've had a couple of miniseries.
Yeah. It's had a few incarnations for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going back to that concept, which is fine. What was I going to say? Oh boy. Jump in here if you want.
Well, I like the concept. I like the concept, the idea of, okay, you've got these villains. If you pay enough penance, you may not serve a life term in whatever prison they threw you in and whatnot. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I like the idea of that. Even if they're bad guys and they're always going to be bad guys, and they're really just doing this to get themselves out, not that they're actually trying to, pay a real penance for some sin because they really don't feel guilty for any of the stuff they've done. Because some of the characters that are in this, I can guarantee you, they did not feel guilty for whatever they did to get themselves thrown in prison. So it's not like they're doing this to get themselves out and whatnot. But I like that idea, so I originally wasn't going to get this comic because the cover alone told me I wasn't sure I wanted to get this comic because I'm not happy with what they've done with Harley Quinn. I do not like her new costume. Other than the funky collar, there's nothing about this that makes her look like a Harley Quinn to me anymore. So why bother calling her Harley Quinn anymore? I mean, I feel like the new updated costume moves her closer to the video game Harley Quinn, and to me, that's not a positive thing. So I don't know. Not happy with the costume thing. So I wasn't really going to get it because of that. It was going to be one of those things where I was going to protest with my money and not spend my money on it to show my dissatisfaction for, well, I don't know. In my opinion, kind of making her look. I don't know. Slutty is the right word, but not what I wanted out of the character anyway.
I think slutty is the right word for the cover image.
You don't think so for inside? I mean, they're walking through the snow, heading towards the house, which is supposed to be their first mission. She's wearing a pair of hot pants, and if she wasn't wearing the ammo belt too, if she wasn't completely waxed or something, she'd be showing way more than what.
Okay, you have a point there.
Is decent for most people to be seen. So,
but I think in the interiors they kind of downplay it to some degree, and I think it has more to do with not necessarily what she's wearing, but how she's posed. And in the cover image is definitely the pose is definitely
it's cheesecake.
Yeah, accentuates that. What I was going to say before when I lost my train of thought is this is one of those books where I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to like this one, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, and I really liked Harley Quinn in this book. Reading the story, I really liked her in it. I liked the pathos that she has, the fact that she's not scared by these guys because she's seen scarier. She's been hurt more by the Joker than these guys can hurt her. At least that's how she thinks. I like that aspect of it. The whole bit, that where they're being tortured. I understand torture as a plot device or as a character motivator, but to go on for pages and pages showing these guys being tortured,
extremely painful. This
I understand why they do it, but I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
And then
grim.
And then the reveal at the end where we have the what looks more like the movie version of Amanda Waller from Green Lantern shows up.
Yep. She looks like Angela Bassett.
Yeah. I wish they wouldn't do that. I understand why they do it, but I wish they wouldn't do that.
What's your understanding of why they did that?
What? The making her look like Angela Bassett?
Making her look like that.
Because the movie. What else would there be?
Nobody who watched a Green Lantern movie is going to be reading this because it's got Amanda Waller in it. And it has no association whatsoever with that movie. Come on.
I know, but why?
But nothing.
Why else would they do it?
Because it's much more fun to show a picture where you can see the top laces of her bra in this picture than it would to be showing some heavy-set woman sitting there who looks like a badass. Instead, we get somebody who's pimping for a supermodel. You can't tell this. That part makes me very angry about this because they took a character who was interesting in the fact that she was a heavy-set lady and still was a badass, kick-ass character that we all remember from the prior, before the launch, and made her into what to here looks like a tart.
Yep.
I mean, even how she's hanging on to her mask is.
Oh yeah, that pose is very much.
Oh heck yeah.
Pornesque.
Oh yeah, it is, and it makes me angry because there's no call for it.
No.
And the way they placed this panel on there, and him saying, "Oh, that's Amanda, and they gets the last thing, and she tells them what they're doing. That's that's built for those of us who know what the old Amanda looked like to give her this,
Mm-hmm.
to show her, because there was no reason to even show her on the damn panel otherwise, right? It still could have been this voice off stage giving them instructions and telling what them to do as
Yeah.
it dumps them out of the plane.
Yeah, they could have done it that way.
That
That's
is
for sure.
solely there to shock all of us and make us all talk about the fact that now suddenly Amanda Waller is some skinny lady, some supermodel type person and whatnot. and unless in the next issues and whatnot, they show her as being some field operative that has to do her own running around and diving for cover and climbing fences and jumping walls and stuff that would mean that she needed to be, physically fit. It's horseshit that they changed her the way that she did. I am angry about that.
Travis, don't hold back.
I'm not. Well, actually, I am, because I could get a lot worse. I think it's unfortunate that they chose to make her look like everybody else that's in comicdom, as opposed to, oh my God, somebody has a different body type.
Mm-hmm.
I subscribe to the fact that most superheroes should look somewhat fit and whatnot, because almost every single one of those comics, they show those heroes at some point going, okay, I need to practice and be in shape and have some of their skills to defend myself in case, oh no, I ever actually lose my superpowers. So I can buy into the fact that most superheroes, men and women, look fit and trim to some degree, because that makes a certain amount of sense, that they'd be that way. But why the common person would look that way, or somebody who that isn't their occupation would look that way? Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
They should look different. We should have heavy set people. We should have skinny people. We should have short people. We should have tall people. We should have all those kinds of people. And there was, like I said, a zero call to make her look like Angela Bassett, other than make her look like Angela Bassett. But my question then would be is I don't think there's anybody who is new to comics or whatever that watched the Green Lantern thing and can even remember that character's name is Amanda Waller from the movie, and is going to turn around and go, oh, hey, yeah, it's Amanda Waller from the movie. No. It's one of those times where DC should be slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Whatever editorial made that choice is a jackass. So. I'm not talking about that.
Okay, so besides all that stuff, do you think this is a new reader friendly book? Does it succeed there?
I suppose. Yes and no. I think it's interesting that they talk about some of the characters in here. They talk about their past and why they're where they're at, and others they didn't give us anything at all on.
Sure.
They dump. What was the Spider? Is the guy's name Black Spider or whatever the heck it was? Black Spider. We don't know anything about him, do we? Do you know anything about him?
Except he's bleeding on the floor.
Right. And he requests help at the. They want medical, and they say no. They dump him out the door. So we get nothing on him. I don't know who else got dropped out, because you get at the very end you got Harley Quinn, King Shark, Deadshot, the guy I'm drawing a blank on his name now.
The tattooed guy?
Yeah, the Hispanic guy. Isn't he Hispanic?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
He speaks in Spanish, doesn't he, I think? And then you got Black Spider, and I don't know who the heck else is way out there that's dropped down.
Mm-hmm.
But how come we didn't get backstories on them? How come we didn't get a little flashback on them? We got a little flashback on Harley Quinn, dancing with dead lawyers, Deadshot trying to assassinate somebody, the other guy burning a house of, people up. Did we get anything on Shark?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, why? Why? So those are the three main people, and everybody else is just kind of who cares?
Perhaps.
Yes, I guess it's reader friendly if you're into torture and pain and mayhem.
Okay.
Did you think it was reader friendly?
In terms of, so there's this
new reader.
There's this squad of superpowered or at least crazy people who are handpicked to be forced to do some missions, and they were tested through this torturous process and then let go to do a mission. So yeah, I think so. In those terms, yeah, I think it's set up the characters and the situation for people to follow, and you don't need to know who all these people are from before you read the book. You don't have to. You don't have to know that Deadshot's Deadshot. He's this guy who is there and
We
being
don't have
tortured.
we don't have to know he's missing his cool mustache, huh?
That's what's missing.
Yeah, his bald face. Is that part of the torture? They shaved his face.
Maybe.
Not only we're gonna put, rats digging through your chest, getting away from a hot bucket. We're gonna shave off your cool mustache.
You know what? When I
What?
first opened the book and I looked at that, I thought, is that Deadshot? And what threw me off was that, and it wasn't, and I didn't even realize it until you just said that, is the fact that he was missing his mustache.
I looked at this page for quite a while trying to figure out what it was that was wrong, and I realized, oh my god, he's missing the mustache.
It's such a simple thing, but it defines the
part of
character.
him.
Yeah. So yeah,
it probably is new reader friendly. I don't know how many people want to read that kind of comic though.
Yeah, I'm not
because it spends half the comic with people basically being mutilated and tortured.
Yeah, and the mission, and we don't know exactly what's in that megadome that they're going to, but there's
60,000 people.
There's 60,000 people, whatever that means. If it's actual, people, normal people,
right,
or if it's 60,000 bad people. I don't know, whatever that means. And they have to go kill them, and they have 6 hours to do it.
Well, how do we know there's even 60,000 people in there? It's
right.
I mean, it makes it pretty clear in the first issue that the people who are giving the commands are very willing to lie to them. How do you know this is just another test?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have much of appeal to me, much of an appeal. So, okay, last book of week 2. This is one you did not read. Superboy, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, Superboy by Scott Lobdell, the writer, R.B. Silva as a penciler, Rob Lean, the inker, and this is interesting. The colorists are listed as the Horries. I've never heard of that group.
They're a husband and wife team, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. I was not even going to pick this up because that cover image of Superboy being hooked up to all this machinery just didn't appeal to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that it does borrow a lot from the previous incarnation of the character in that he's a clone.
He is a clone of Superman?
He is a clone, yes, of Superman, and I think did they go with the, I can't remember now because I read through this quickly and I didn't like it all that much. Because before Superboy, Connor Kent was a clone, a combination of Lex Luthor and Superman's DNA. So I don't know if they're still maintaining that. I think I thought I read something in here that suggested that.
And doesn't Connor Kent version that comes out of the death of Superman, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so they obviously had to change that because Superman hasn't died, I would assume.
No, he has died in this relaunch universe. He's died in
really?
life. Yeah, they kept that.
Oh wow!
In
I didn't
Swamp
know
Thing,
that.
when he's having that conversation with Alec Holland, he says something that implies he knows what it's like to come back from the dead.
Oh, okay.
So, I took that to mean that he did fight Doomsday and he did die. And I if I remember correctly, I think one of the guys from DC had said something to that effect as well.
Oh, okay. I missed that somewhere along the way. Not that it matters.
So does this tie into that? Maybe. I'm not sure. The art in this is, some of it's okay, and some of it isn't. Again, it seems inconsistent to me. Some of the stuff I didn't like. There's this whole virtual reality thing. So Superboy, the character they call Superboy, he's in this fluid all hooked up to these hoses, and they run these simulations on him. And there's one where he's in school, in a high school nestled somewhere in the heart of Kansas. But it's, of course, it's not real, but yet that's supposed to be, the implication is that's Smallville, and he's in class, and here's all these kids, and you're reading along, and it seems like, they just put him in school trying to acclimate him to humanity, and he's talking to a girl, it's Rose Wilson, which seems kind of weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Rose Wilson's here, and they're having a conversation, and then in the background you see this house on fire and this woman yelling for help, and he just walks on by as if he didn't even see anything. Well, it's a test, it's a simulation, and they're trying to figure out why he ignores that, why he doesn't have any emotional connection. But the problem I have with this whole sequence, which I mean, it's not a bad sequence in and of itself, but the first page of it, they show him, the teacher's talking, he answers the question, but behind him is this girl who he could not see if, if we turn the camera around, basically, this girl is behind him. He can't see her, what she's doing. She's not talking, but there are these little hearts floating above her head, because she loves this boy. But it's a simulation.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
It's just these weird. I mean, they throw these things in here where I can understand it if this was real, and there was some sort of other interaction that would suggest that to him. But they just threw it in there. It looks kind of cute, but it doesn't mean anything because this is just a simulation. And there's this whole plot with this one female character who is eventually in charge of his upbringing, I guess is the best way to put it. And she's kind of interesting, but not really. And then it just kind of ends with they're going to let Superboy out. And then the very last page is a splash page of him in the foreground and the Teen Titans in the background. And that's pretty much it. He's going to learn about his powers, and I don't know. I didn't get this comic. I don't know what the purpose is. I don't understand what I just read exactly and why I should care. The only interesting thing to me was that Rose Wilson was in it.
Yeah,
and if you're a new reader, you're not going to know who that is or what the significance of that character is. And
you sure that isn't just one of those things where it's like in the Frankenstein one where it's got Ray Palmer in there. That's just a shout out to all of us people who have prior history of the DC universe.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
She's just another person. She just happens to have the name of somebody that we're familiar with.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was kind of a waste, and I definitely won't be getting into it. Now, having said that, from a new reader's perspective, I mean, it spells out pretty much everything you need to know about the character. He's a clone. He's in this facility. This one woman cares about him. Some people come in and interrupt that upbringing because they want him to go off and do things. And one thing I forgot to mention is that he's aware of a lot of this. They think that he's not, but he is. So there will be some issues going forward between him and his upbringing, or the
his handlers.
His handlers, thank you.
Yes.
So there'll be that, but I know they want to have an expanded Superman line, and this is part of it, but I just don't see the point in reading that comic, really. If you want to read Superboy, go read Teen Titans. I say that having not read Teen Titans, so
I was gonna say
how well that will work.
Because it's the same writer writing Teen Titans, right?
Is it Scott Lobdell?
He's writing like 3 comics, isn't he? Isn't he writing that? And he's also writing. Yes, he is writing Teen Titans, okay. And isn't he also writing Red Hood?
Is that it? Wow, did they? They gave him all the teen characters, didn't they? Yep.
Yes, he is also writing it also. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So that could bode badly for all of those. Huh?
Yeah, I just don't care. Like I said, I don't care for this take on that character. I mean, Connor Kent being a clone from that old Death of the Superman storyline was kind of pushing it for me as far as a Superboy. But I grew to like the character, and especially here in the later years, with him on Jeff Johns' Teen Titans and going forward. But yeah, this one not so much. Okay, that's it for week 2. You have anything else to add as far as this week?
Nope. I'm ready for week 3.
Because we've talked week 1 and week 2 to death. Is that why?
Well,
Or just looking
yeah,
forward to what's coming?
I can talk about it more. I can go back to Suicide Squad and mention some more about the fact that Waller's not right if you want me to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be doing this again in a few weeks after we get the rest of our week 3 and week 4 comics. We're talking about those. All right. Unless you have anything else to add, Travis, I guess this is the end.
nope.
All right. Be sure to visit our blogs. That'll be in the show notes for people to go to, or holler at us on Twitter. We're both on Facebook. And let us know what you think. Leave us some feedback at the blogs, or go to iTunes and leave some reviews for the Longbox Review Podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Travis, thank you very much.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks for listening.